Trump's curse on American farmers is a blessing for Brazil's. Trump killed U.S. soybean farmers who have lost their biggest customer, China. And not only that, they don't know what to plant for next season. A double hit to the bottom line. But one nation's curse is another's good fortune.
As China continues to hit back against Donald Trump's tariffs, the trade war heats up. Next on the chopping block is soybeans. This is particularly hitting Iowa farmers where it is counting. $34.48 billion annually is exported to China alone in soybeans.
China has been boycotting American soybeans, and American farmers have really suffered. Do you see a real light at the end of the tunnel there? They may allow soybeans again?
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this pain too.
Let's really think about this for a second. How does a country go from dominating a market to watching another country taking over? We are talking about billions of dollars, global trade, entire farming communities, and somehow the balance shifted. Not slowly, but fast enough for people to start asking questions. Before I break this all the way down, let's go how the farmers and people reacted on this, because once you see what is being said, you will understand why this conversation is eating up. Watch it, come back, and let's connect the dots that is happening here.
China has been boycotting American soybeans, and American farmers have really suffered. Do you see a real light at the end of the tunnel there? They may allow soybeans again?
Well, Martha, in case you don't know it, I'm actually a soybean farmer, so I have felt this pain too. And there are a couple of things happening here. One, the Chinese have substantially dropped their purchases to almost zero, so they unfortunately have been using American farmers who are amongst President Trump's biggest supporters. I think he had more than 90% support. And then this was one of the biggest crops in 20 or 30 years, so it was a perfect storm. But I think we have addressed the farmers' concerns, and I'm not going to get ahead of the president, but I believe when the announcement of the deal with China is made public, that our soybean farmers will feel very good about what's going on, both for this season and the coming seasons.
Trump's curse on American farmers is a blessing for Brazil's. Trump killed U.S. soybean farmers who have lost their biggest customer, China. And not only that, they don't know what to plant for next season. A double hit to the bottom line. But one nation's curse is another's good fortune. Brazilian farmers are celebrating a surge in demand from China. Brazil loves Trump because Trump's working for them, or so it seems. Soy farmer Wesley Rosa said it well. Quote, "The United States is provoking this fight, but it is Brazil that is going to end up benefiting," unquote. China, the world's largest soybean importer, has shifted its purchases from America to Brazil, which now accounts for over 70% of Chinese soybean imports. Meanwhile, U.S. soybean exports to China have, of course, plummeted, with some farmers questioning the viability of their operations. Again, Trump and the Republican administration have cratered the American economy and crushed American farmers specifically. They benefit other countries. So if you're an American, it's sad news and hard times to come. But if you're Brazilian and a host of other nations, it's the roaring 20s of the 21st century.
Today, $13 billion were lost from the U.S. economy because China announced it will no longer be buying U.S. soybeans. Instead, they're going to buy them from Brazil. That's about $13 billion worth of exports just gone. I don't know if you guys know how much of the United States is just dedicated to growing soybeans, but take a trip around the South. Take a trip around like North Carolina, for example. You'll see there's soybean fields everywhere. Primary customer of those, China. Chinese firms. I don't think people are getting it, man. Like, even if the tariffs got canceled today, I mean, the damage is done effectively. I mean, it's going to take years for the United States to regain, if it ever can at this point, its position within the global trade infrastructure. Because global trade is only possible because of a system of handshakes, a system of trust between trading partners, where everybody trusts that the other parties in any trade deal are going to maintain the same systems and agreements for harvesting, packaging, transporting, unloading, and reselling goods between each other. And what the United States has done here over the last 90 days, it's only been 90 days, is it has said to the entire world, we cannot wrangle our worst impulses. Because we could have wrangled them, right? Congress could have stood up to Trump, gotten their stuff together, and said, hey, between the House and the Senate, we have more than enough people who are all dismayed at the dismantling of the global order, which has built all this untold wealth in this country. So we are going to pass a bill and then use a congressional override in the event that a bill was vetoed in order to take the powers of tariffs back from the president in their unilateral ability to do so, which is how Trump is able to do what he's doing now. But they did not do that. What did they do instead? They cowered. Right? They bent the knee because they're all afraid of this guy and his little minion from South Africa. And the cost they are paying, right, is the cost to their own bottom lines as private individuals, because they have investment portfolios that are also not doing too hot and will continue to not do too hot in a declining fashion, an accelerating rate of decline, I might add, the longer this goes on. And they're also selling off all of their kids' futures. You know, whatever legacy these people are hoping to leave for just themselves and their family, I mean, they're destroying it whole cloth right here. It's not fathomable. I mean, like the acquiescence of duty, I mean, alone, of course we know that congressional representatives don't care about duty for the most part, but the acquiescence of sense over to this little demon. I mean, it's just, oh my God.
Right now, we're in a very dire situation. September's a bonus, harvest is starting in the deep south, and we have 0 bushels of soybeans on the books to be sold to China for this current crop that's about to come out of the field. Historically, over the last 5 years, about a third of soybean sales to China would be booked. China amounts to 25% of our total U.S. soybean crop. So that would be 8 or 9% of the whole U.S. crop would normally be on the books with China right now, and we have 0. That is alarming. The farm economy as a whole is struggling. Inflation has caused our cost of production to rise drastically on every front. Commodity prices, in particular soybeans, are down about 50% from where they were 3 years ago. And our numbers are deeply in the red. And we send this letter to President Trump because we've been talking for months about needing to have sales in place, a deal in place, a phase 2 type agreement that has purchase commitments along with a level playing field on trade with no tariffs. And we haven't had anything happen, unfortunately. And our appeal to President Trump and his administration is make soybeans a priority in any trade negotiations that are taking place. Soybeans are the #1 agriculture export to China. And in the last trade war, it was 71% of the losses that we had as American farmers. And they're critical.
So this is one soybean farmer that I can actually respect.
When President Obama was in office, we had a wonderful jolt of energy because we had an administration that said, we're going to have advanced biofuels power our country. And then Trump got in there and decided to have his trade wars again and everything else and to roll back all those environmental protections, and the ag economy started to tank. Joe Biden gets in there again. Hey, we're going to have advanced biofuels. We're going to have airline fuel that comes from corn-based ethanol. What happened? Prices went up again, up to an all-time high, right where they were. Trump gets back in there again, we're going to have a trade war, and boom, prices are tanking again.
And honestly, he's the first farmer that I have actually heard name Trump when it comes to the issues that farmers are having, because a lot of it is actually his fault because of his trade wars and tariffs that are going on. And in the rest of this video, he says that farmers don't need a bailout. They need a trade deal of some sort so they can sell their crops. And this is what he has to say in regards to what the bailout money should actually be used for.
That's money that should be going towards senior citizens. That's money that should be going for the Affordable Care Act. That's money that should just be going to regular tax cuts for normal Americans and not billionaires. What he is doing is destroying our markets.
Wow, someone that's actually speaking really great common sense and is for the people. Because if you notice the other farmers that voted for Donnie, they don't put any type of blame towards him, even though the same exact situation happened in his first term. But in conclusion, I genuinely have respect for this guy that's on that video. And I don't know how he voted, so I can't neither confirm or deny if he actually voted for Donald or not. But he sounds more blue than red, if anything.
Has anybody figured out where our bumper crop of soybeans are going? Yeah, because this administration has messed things up so badly with China. China goes, yeah, keep your soybeans, we're good. The biggest buyer in the world of soybeans has said, don't worry about it, we're good. So why doesn't somebody tell me or tell the U.S. farmers that are bringing in all these soybeans, tell them what they're going to do with them? Somebody needs to come up with a plan and like really, really quick. Because guess what? China said, thanks, but no thanks. So where are all these soybeans going to go? Does anybody know? Does anybody care? Because I'm sure the farmers are freaking out right now because they have a bumper crop of soybeans that, nobody wants. At least China doesn't want. And China's the biggest, largest buyer. I mean, we could be selling the small countries, but it's not going to put a dent in the soybeans that we have. Is anyone going to start talking about this? Or are we just going to pretend it's not a massive, huge problem because of this administration? Like and follow for more.
America's largest and most valuable export to China, do you know what it is? Soybeans. Well, they have crashed to zero because of President Trump's trade war. Farmers are feeling the pain big time, and the Trump administration could announce a more than $10 billion bailout this week. But farmers tell Janet Shamlian their problems are much bigger than that.
It's harvest season in America's heartland.
Is this the prime harvest time in southern Illinois?
Yes, it is right now.
But for soybean farmers like Scott Gaffner, it's a season of worry. Soybeans are the nation's largest agricultural export. But as the trade war drags on, China, America's biggest buyer, hasn't purchased any this year.
We can't help but feel very anxious of wondering why it's taking so long to get this resolved.
Are you angry?
The farther we go into this season, the more we're going to lose. And China should have been buying our beans already, and they're not. It's like crickets.
So he's storing what he's producing, hoping the market will turn.
So we're going to lose probably about $2 a bushel this year.
And how much does that mean overall?
That means a lot. It means we can't sustain that kind of loss for a very long of a time period without going under.
And it's not the first time this has happened. Soybean farmers were hammered during President Trump's first trade war with China in 2018. Now the administration is promising them another bailout.
We don't want the aid, we want the trade.
Gaffner says one-time relief is not a long-term solution.
If China starts buying elsewhere, which they are doing now, once they establish those trade routes, it becomes more difficult for them to come back to the U.S. to buy their commodities. Once we lose that, we may never get it back again. And that's huge for next generations.
Including for his son Cody, who would be the fourth generation to farm the land.
If I do come back, I do have to have a second job to supplement that, because there's no way currently with the tariffs in place that we can survive with that.
For Scott Gaffner, it's about more than his bottom line.
We're just not stimulating our own sales. We're stimulating the economy in our area. That economy relies upon us as farmers to keep that economy going. And so it impacts everybody.
American workers and American taxpayers have been taken advantage of for multi-generation, for decades. And it's time for somebody to stand up and put us first and put the country first and do what's best for the country, not what's best for the politicians.
Even if you as a farmer suffer.
That's right.
I mean, some people would hear that and be quite surprised that you're prepared to put your livelihood, your family's livelihood, on the line for the sake of politics.
Well, that's my duty as for being the head of my household. I've got to do what I got to do, what's going to be better for the future, better for the kids. It's not about today, it's about the long term. The long game is where the rewards are going to be.
But don't the price of tariffs and what happens in commodity markets like soybean, doesn't that affect you in the short term and affect your ability to provide for your family?
Look, tariffs will probably have a detrimental effect on soybean price in the near future. In the long term, it'll probably work out. I'm a farmer. I deal with bad weather. I deal with dry weather. I deal with torrential rains. We deal with hurricanes. What's a tariff going to do? You know, I got to raise a crop. If I was worried, I'd stay home and not raise a crop. If I was worried about it, I still got to get out there and raise my crop to get the price. If you don't get the yield, it doesn't make any difference. You know, I got to deal with all these other things. What's a tariff? I can't control that. So it is what it is.
A report from the American Soybean Association says America's soybean farmers are nearing a financial cliff and won't survive another drawn-out trade war with China, one of the world's, of course, largest soybean buyers. Caleb Ragland, president of the American Soybean Association, sent a letter to the White House urging the administration to reach a deal with China to remove the duties and, if possible, to include significant soybean buys. He said, quote, U.S. soybean farmers can't survive a prolonged dispute with our largest customer. Soybean farmers are under extreme financial stress as prices drop and costs for inputs and equipment continue to climb.
Does Trump really know what's going on? Because if he finds out about this, I would assume that he'd be really angry and pissed. So you may recall last week, Trump met Xi, right? You're not going to believe this story. So Xi met with Trump, or the other way around, at Ocean Summit. And Trump came back with saying, hey, things are much better. We're going to get rare earth, man, all those things. You know, I've got the deal. I'm the deal maker, art of the deal. And one of the things that was talked about, of course, was soybeans. Now, soybean farmers in the United States, unfortunately, are just been devastated. You know, their livelihoods have been destroyed. They're up against the wall, to say the very least. So Trump said China is going to start buying huge amounts of soybean, and he even said in a tweet, soybean farmers go and buy more land because you're going to be making so much money. However, the tariffs on soybeans, okay, you ready for this, are still higher than they are on Brazil 1 week later. So China isn't going to buy any soybeans anytime soon when they can get it cheaper from Brazil. So US shipments of soybeans are still too expensive. What's he doing? What's going on? I tell you, this guy has two brain cells and both of them are fighting for third place. He has no idea how to make a deal, and people are suffering because of it. Folks, my name is Nick. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. The source for this is Reuters.
Oh boy, let's talk about how Trump is screwing the farmers. I have a lot of soybean farmers who are my clients, and this is really bad news. Caleb Ragland, who's the president of the American Soybean Association, he said farmers are heading into a harvest season without a single order from China. 25% of soybean farmers' crops are usually sold to China. The prices of soybeans are down 40% because of what's happening under the Trump administration, and production costs are rising. I'm tying in the Trump administration to this. This Soybean Association president is still speaking up Donald Trump. 500,000 soybean growers in the United States exist and are being severely impacted by this. They're having to now rely on loans to get them through the season. There are 231,000 jobs associated with soybean farming, harvesting, transportation, storage, you name it. And he says the impact on the local rural community that depends on the farmer is going to be severely impacted. South American farmers, soybean farmers, are filling the gap. China is just hop-skipping over the United States, and countries like Brazil have got it completely covered. No wonder Trump is attacking some of these other countries south of us. But then he went on to reiterate that Donald Trump loves farmers and that he supports Trump. And he says that the Trump administration told him to tell the farmers to be patient. I just want to explain what the soybean farmers are looking at. Harvest season is right around the corner. Imagine that there's a machine manufacturer that is on the brink of bankruptcy, and they've got a whopping $50,000 in the bank. And they've got to make a decision. Do we keep hiring people to build this one machine in hopes that we can sell it and make that money back? Do we drain that $50,000 and go into debt, hiring employees, purchasing materials to make it happen, run our facility to make that machine, pay for transportation costs to ship it out in the hopes that we'll have a customer for it? That's what they're facing. They've got to hire H-2A workers, those nasty, nasty brown-skinned people, and I'm being very sarcastic. That's how MAGA looks at them. There's truck drivers that haul the soy. There's storage facilities with silos that store them. The farmer pays to have them stored. They're going to tell them we have no room because we're storing 10,000 other farmers' soy products that are not being sold anywhere. Like, this is so fucking devastating. And when I saw that farmer in, I believe, Arkansas, crying, this is a grown-ass man with gray hair. Donald Trump, we love you. We need your help. This is what MAGA doesn't get. Don't leave a seat at the table expecting Donald Trump to come sit down and talk to farmers. He will only sit at the tables that have billionaires and Project 2025 folks. He's only focused on their agenda. And the Project 2025 agenda includes changing the American farming industry that's going to fucking screw every American farmer. He's not going to come and have a seat at your table. Just be patient.
Hey, Steve from Georgia. So as we know, the tariffs are having tons of effects on United States farmers, and the latest crop that's really getting hit really hard is soybeans. China is the biggest importer of soybeans of any country in the world. Somewhere in the neighborhood of $12.8 billion worth of soybeans went to China last year. And the United States was the major supplier of those. Well, now with the tariffs of 145% put on those soybeans, they've now went to Brazil being China's number one exporter to their country for soybeans. The United States farmers are going to suffer tremendously because, folks, when you're taking a crop out of someone's hand, and farmers have a hard enough time dealing with weather and machinery and whatever the world throws at them, and now to have a tariff that they can't control, all it is going to make them go out of business. Tariffs is something that the farmer cannot fight against, folks. He might be able to help increase his production, the quality of his product, but when tariffs come involved, there's nothing they can do. Farmers in America are in trouble.
Hell, I might lose some followers for this, but I don't really give a fuck. Trump thinks farmers are fucking stupid. And before you lose your shit, let me explain. In retaliation to a trade war that they fucking started, China and other countries are no longer buying crops from American farmers. So what does Trump do? He comes out and says that he's going to use tariff revenue to bail them out. But who pays for that tariff? Oh, that's right, the American taxpayer, because the companies they buy their products from have now passed that cost of that tariff on to them. The problem isn't that we're bailing out farmers. I believe we need to bail them out. We need to support small farmers so they don't have to sell their land to big-ass corporations who will then in turn just own more of our land and more of our food chain supply. The problem is that the American consumer, who are also farmers by the way, cover the cost of that tariff at the checkout aisle and at the parts store. And now the federal government is going to use that money to pay the farmer for the money they lost as a result of a trade war that they fucking started. They are using American consumers and American farmers to solve a problem that they fucking created. And then they're going to stamp their name on it and say, see, we're for the farmer. No, the fuck you ain't. You're just too stupid, or even worse, you think they're too stupid to know that you're the one who created this fucking problem in the first place. Meanwhile, their rich fucking buddies just got even richer because they didn't have to touch that fucking tariff, and we just got fucking poorer.
The older I get, I can't tell the difference between superheroes and supervillains. Guess once I traded all their capes in, and now the bad guys wear a suit and tie, just make it make sense. Do the good guys ever win?
To all my farmer neighbors, my name is Susie, and I live in rural Missouri. You were warned over and over and over. We told you there was no drag queen story hour. There were no furries in our school using litter boxes. But you guys refused to call the superintendent of the schools like I did. I called Rolla Public Schools and asked Dr. Dare if there was any truth to that. He laughed and said maybe I was watching too much TV. We told you that China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans. You laughed in our face. I'm not going to say I told you so, but I do not want to bail you out for the next 20 years, and I will fight against it. China signed 20-year contracts with Brazil for soybeans because of Donald J. Trump. They don't want our soybeans. They don't want our beef. They don't want our wheat. They don't want anything we grow. As far as we're concerned, China can stick it up our ass. And can you blame them?
As China continues to hit back against Donald Trump's tariffs, the trade war heats up. Next on the chopping block is soybeans. This is particularly hitting Iowa farmers where it is counting. $34.48 billion annually is exported to China alone in soybean. This will be a huge loss to Iowa, to the United States, and it will definitely have a negative trickle-down effect on our economy. In case you are wondering, Iowa is a red state. Farmers, is this an FAFO? This post above was about beef and how we are losing another 30-something billion dollars by China taking their exports to Australia. We are a global economy, ladies and gentlemen. What that means is we all count on each other. And the United States counts hugely on this export for soybeans to stimulate our economy. When you have these very large hits, it is going to affect the job market local and trickle to other industries and essentially to the rest of the world. Drop your comments here. What do you think is next for the tariff war? Do you think China is winning?
These Republican voting farmers are finding out the hard way. Caleb Ragland grows soybeans in Kentucky. He's voted for Trump every election since 2016. And now, he calls the current crisis Farmageddon. Why is he calling it Farmageddon? Because Trump's trade war shut down their biggest customer, China. Soybeans used to be a $25 billion export. Now they're sitting in bins unsold while Brazil cashes in. And Caleb's not alone. Eric Yukin, a seventh-generation farmer in Iowa, with 750 acres of corn and 600 of soybeans, also voted for Trump in 2024. I didn't anticipate it being as bad as it is, he says. You didn't remember Trump screwing you guys over his last presidency? The funniest quote he says is that it's kind of the government that's put us in this situation. Eric, you don't say. He says pigs and cattle are keeping his farm afloat, barely. But there's no clear plan from D.C., just a maybe later bill that won't help until next year. This year's crop is rotting. We don't know what's happening day to day, Yukin says. Man, what a great guy to vote for. Someone that you have no idea what he'll screw up next. The last time we had bailouts was to buy future votes. Now, it doesn't matter anymore, he says. Ding, ding, ding. We got a winner, Eric. Trump's not coming to save you. He got what he wanted. Power, attention, money, and chaos. While you got tariffs, bankruptcy, and empty silos. And now that the votes are in and the markets are gone, he's moving on. While you're still out in the field waiting for a harvest that has nowhere to go. I hope you like soybeans, because there's going to be plenty of leftovers for you to eat.
Now you have seen it, let's talk. What we are looking at here is shift in the global soybean market, and it involves two major players, the United States and the Brazil. For years, the United States was the dominant exporter of soybean, But then things started changing. Let's simplify this. Global trade is sensitive. When policies shift, markets react. In this case, trade tension increases, export relationships were affected, buyers started looking somewhere else. And guess who was ready? Brazil. While one side was dealing with challenges, Brazil expanded. They increased production, strengthened trade relationship, filled the gap, and in global markets, gaps don't stay empty. Now, this is where it gets real. Because people are connecting decision to consequences, and whether you agree or not, that conversation is happening. But let's keep it balanced. Farming is already difficult, and add global trade pressure, it becomes even tougher. This is bigger than soybean. It's about how fast global markets can shift, how policy impacts real industries, and how competition never waits. Because once another country steps in, it's hard to take that space back. Now, let's talk about perspective here because of many Black Americans and individuals, understanding economic shifts and adapting to change has always been necessary. There is a long history of building an uncertainty system, adjusting to economic pressure, and creating opportunities despite limitation. So when conversation like this happen, it highlights something important, and that's awareness of how system move, how money flows, and where opportunity shifts as always matters. And that mindset is powerful in moments like this because while some are reacting, others are already rethinking and thinking ahead. Let me ask you something. If your income depends on a global market and that market suddenly change, would you do wait or adapt? That's the situation many are facing right now. This topic is going up because it is unexpected. People didn't expect such a big shift so quickly. And when something major changes, it gets attention. Let's zoom out for a second. This isn't just about farming, it's about strength, timing, and global competition. Because in today's world, everything is connecting. At the end of the day, this isn't about blaming, it's about understanding because when you understand how things move, you move smarter. And in a global system, standing still is not an option. Let me throw this to you. Do you think global trade decisions affect everyday people more than we realize, or is this just part of how the system works? Drop your thoughts below. Let's really talk about it. And if you want more breakdown like this, stay tapped in because we are connecting real dots over here. Thank you for watching. I'll see you all in my next video.